Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sprint 243 review. This was a normal 2-week sprint. Let's get started. I'll start with the overview, Gilbert on the UI, Adam on providers, and Joe on the platform. This sprint, we had 75 PRs merged this sprint, relatively normal sprint. There's an uptick in the number of PRs open because there was a number of blast out PRs to get code coverage and Rails 7 type stuff as we move towards upgrading to Rails 7. But of the merged PRs, it was pretty standard with 19 bugs fixed and 15 enhancements and smattering of the rest. And over to Gilbert on the UI.
Thanks, Jason. So these are some of the UI fixes we have, starting off with bugs fixes. I fixed a bug where the textual summary page was being duplicated. I also fixed a Morphe bug with the Cypress test, as well as Jason added a bootstrap vulnerability to allow us to get to green before we can upgrade. Some enhancements we worked on, Jeffrey, one of his last PRs, he did filtering and selecting for embedded methods. Then we had Samuel's enhancement PRs, which were the provision dialog form conversion and converting the provision dialog summary page. And then Jason also added the use npm audit exclude packages. Next page. Just some more UI fixes that we had as well that weren't necessarily bugs or enhancements. So we had a bunch of package upgrades that I worked on the Morphe branch. We also did an update of the pending Yarn npm audit list, as well as some more npm audit exclude packages on ManageIQ UI service. So just to go into some of the enhancements, so this is Samuel's provision dialog form conversion. So we see the before and after there. Next slide. As well as Samuel's provision dialog summary page conversion. Again, we have the before and after here. Next page. And that's it for the UI. Next to Adam.
Thanks, Gilbert. So this sprint, as always, MIQBot updated the AWS instance types, or the IS-NES types in this case. Ansible Tower, we made some changes to not redefine the automation job relations. This was a change to a subclass provider of the AWX provider, and more Rails relations were copied than were strictly necessary, but this also trying to remove this pointed out an interesting bug which was fixed in the last sprint. And so we were able to finally drop this. So the relations for the automation manager job are now just simply inherited from the parent class. KubeVirt is getting some attention now. So we fixed a parser exception if the memory values are missing, which seemed to happen sometimes when the VM wasn't running. And we also fixed the parent manager class name. It was pointing to just the base Kubernetes provider, but since that's the OpenShift parent was a Access STI, it was getting returned as null, which was causing failures when you went to save the provider. Next slide. For Flow, we fixed a bug if container names in the image were too long. We are chopping off at the maximum allowed by Kubernetes, but sometimes that last character is actually an invalid character. For example, a dash in a name, and so that was causing the pod to fail to create. So we are now stripping all trailing characters until we get to a valid one. For workflows, we also fixed a bug where container runner options were not being honored. It was a pretty simple string versus symbol key lookup issue. And that is it for providers. Over to Joe.
Thanks, Adam. For platform enhancements, Adam improved things related to network interfaces. He improved the appliance side by not assuming ETH0 as the interface name, and instead he's building a list of interfaces. He also improved the reloading of network interface information. As we move towards Rails 7, virtual attributes had many improvements this sprint. Keenan had several pull requests. He removed some code that was supporting older versions of Rails, and we generally improved compatibility with Rails 7. I also had a few changes to also work on that compatibility. Keenan added a name path search for searching for automate methods. Jason improved the security test suite by exposing the new Yarn audit rake task to being exposed in the rake -t output. He factored code out of the rake file and into a Ruby file, and finally improved the suite by ensuring all security tasks are run before failing any one of them. Previously, we could have multiple failures and only know about the first one. Next slide. Adam improved the Kubernetes worker management code to ensure we wait for the initial pod and deployment collection to be finished before we allowed the access to this information. The resource version from this collection is not correct until this collection is complete. So this code improves the cache consistency. For the next one, I added an initial set of pull requests to change the GitHub CI workflows for the code coverage to run against Ruby 3.1 and also to use that as the default. And we also added ones for Rails 7 going forward. And Jason added more Ansible runner tests, and I added Rails 7 and 6.1 compatible change to the exposed method subclasses from active support descendants tracker instead of using the private instance variables. And Adam cleaned up the EMS ID handling as it can no longer be an array. Next slide. For platform bugs, the bot army opened PRs to bump various Podify dependencies. Jason and the bot updated RexML to 3.3.3 plus for CVE fixes in both Gems Pending and the ManageIQ bot repo. Jason updated the ManageIQ style to the latest version as a dependency. And for safety, Keenan added escaping of table names and column names in the purging, mixing, and deep delete. Adam fixed the bug with how we checked for a running pod, as it was not compatible with non-Rails workers. Jace added a prune option to fix a bug where we displayed old Git branches that no longer exist in an automate Git-based domain. Nassar added a CA cert to the list of installed files for the messaging client to ensure it is removed when removing messaging. He also deprecated the use of the IP address command line interface option for the messaging server. And he bumped appliance console version to 9.1.0. Next, Brandon switched the Podified CI to use Ubuntu 24.04 to ensure we get a newer Podman with support for bind mounting volumes. Finally, Adam fixed Podified documentation to specify the correct OC create for the operator file path. That's it for the platform. Next slide.
All right, and that's it for our Sprint 243 review. Our next Sprint Review 244 is on August 21st at the usual place and time. And I'd like to thank all the presenters today, all the members of our community, and if anyone working on ManageIQ. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.